Students, teachers, poetry fans around the state, welcome to our Maine Poetry Out Loud 2022 State Finals. I'm Meg Fournier, Interim Director of Media and Performing Arts at the Maine Arts Commission. The Commission is thrilled to be partnering again with the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation to bring you all the 17th year of Poetry Out Loud in Maine. While we miss seeing all of our Poetry Out Loud participants in person again this year, we're excited to be here at Space Gallery in Portland to celebrate all of you. Today, we are honoring 10 students who have excelled in their school and regional competitions in another unique year where virtual competitions have replaced in-person events. The students each recorded their recitation videos ahead of time to submit them for this competition, and our judges scored them remotely. At the end of today's competition, we will announce our state champion and runner-up. Our state champion will go on to the national competition later this spring. I want to take a moment to thank everyone that participated in this year's Poetry Out Loud program, including the teachers and administrators who led the programs in their schools. We thank you so much for your hard work, your perseverance, and your continued commitment to the art of poetry. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our MC for our Maine Poetry Out Loud State Finals, former Maine State Champion, Allan Monga. Allan moved to the United States from Zambia as a high school student in 2017. He quickly discovered his love of poetry and began participating in the Poetry Out Loud program at Deering High School. Just 1 year later, he was our Maine Poetry Out Loud State Champion. Thank you so much for joining us again, Allan.
Scene 1A, take 6.
Thank you, Meg. I am honored to be back again this year, introducing our semifinalists. You will see each of our student competitors recite 3 poems, 1 in each round. Students filmed themselves reciting their poems and submitted them for the competition. The order of recitation was randomly selected in advance. Let's get to round 1. First up, we have Emma Bennett, grade 11, Baxter Academy of Technology and Science. Emma enjoys reading, journaling, and performing at a local theater. Her favorite subjects include math, world history, and computer-aided design. Emma hopes to pursue a career in engineering or architecture.
From Blossoms by Lee Young Lee. From Blossoms comes this brown paper bag of peaches we brought from the bend in the road, where we turned towards signs painted peaches. From laden boughs, from hands, from sweet fellowship in the bins, comes nectar at the roadside. Succulent peaches we devour, dusty skin and all, comes a familiar dust of summer. Dust we eat. Oh, to take what we love inside, to carry within us an orchard. To eat not only the skin but the shade, not only sugar but the days. To hold the fruit in our hands, adore it, then bite into the round jubilance of peach. There are days we live as though death were nowhere in the background. From joy to joy to joy. From wing to wing. From blossom to impossible blossom. To sweet, impossible blossom.
Next up, we have Emelia Bailey, grade 11, Westbrook High School. Emelia is a classical singer who plans to pursue a vocal performance in college. She has been involved in operas at Opera Maine, and her singing was recently featured on NPR.
War Widow by Chris Abani. The telephone never rings. Still, you pick it up, smile into the static, the breath of those you've loved, long dead. The leaf you pick from the fall rises and dips away with every ridge. Fingers stiff from time you trace. Staring off into a distance limned by cataracts and other collected debris, you have forgotten none of the long ago joy of an ice cream truck and its summer song. Between the paving stones, between tea, a cup, and the sound of you pouring, between the time you woke that morning and the time when the letter came. A tired sorrow, like an old flagellant, able only to tease with a weak sting. Riding the elevator all day, floor after floor after floor, each stop some small victory whittled from the hard stone of death. You smile. They used to write epics about moments like this.
Our next recitation is Ogechi Obi, grade 12, Bangor High School. Ogechi likes to read, write, and draw. In college, she would like to earn a degree in international relations or public policy. Ogechi's greatest dream is to write a book, walk into a library, and find it sitting on the shelves.
Won't You Celebrate With Me by Lucille Clifton. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be, except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed.
Our next performer is Sofya Lantratova, grade 12, George Stevens Academy. Sofya was born in Russia and came to the United States in the 10th grade to pursue her dreams. Her favorite activities include oil painting, singing, and solving math and physics problems.
Emily Dickinson at the Poetry Slam by Don Vera. I will tell you why she rarely ventured from her house. It happened like this. One day, she took the train to Boston, made her way to the darkened room, put her name down in cursive script, and waited her turn. When they read her name aloud, she made her way to the stage, straightened the papers in her hands, pages and envelopes, the backs of grocery bills. She closed her eyes for a minute, took a breath, and began. From her mouth, perfect words exploded, intact formulas of light and darkness. She dared to rhyme with words like cochineal and describe the skies like diadem. Obscurely worded incantations filled the room with an alchemy that made the very molecules quake. The solitary words she handled in her upstairs room with keen precision came rumbling out to make the electric lights flicker. 40 members of the audience were treated for hypertension. 20-year-old dark-haired beauties found their heads had turned a Moses white. Her second poem erased the memory of every cell phone in the nightclub. And by the fourth line of the sixth verse, the grandmother in the upstairs apartment had been cured of her rheumatism. The papers reported the power outages. The area hospitals taxed their emergency generators, and sirens were heard to wail through the night. Quietly, she made her way to the exit, walked to the terminal, and rode back to Amherst. She never left her room again and never read such syllables aloud.
And now, Chloe Schueman, grade 10, Greely High School. Chloe is a Nordic skier and loves to ski during the cold months. Chloe is bilingual in French and is learning Spanish at school. She plans to study abroad in France next year to further her studies in French.
The World is About to End and My Grandparents Are in Love by Cara Jackson. Still living like they orbit one another, my grandfather, the planet, and grandma, his moon assigned by some gravitational pull. They've loved long enough for a working man to retire. Grandma says she's not tired. She wears her husband like a coat that survives every season. Talks about him the way my parents talk about vinyl, the subject salvaged by the tint of their tongues. Grandma returns to her love like a hymn, marks it with a color. When the world ends, will it suck the earth of all its love? Will I go, taking somebody's hand, my skin, becoming their skin? The digital age is taking away our winters, and I'm afraid the sun is my soulmate. That waste waits for a wet kiss. Carbon calls me pretty, and I think death is a good first date. I hope when the world ends, it leaves them be. Spares Grandpa in his game, Grandma spinning corn into weight, the two of them reeling into Western theme songs, the TV louder than whatever's coming.
Next up is Rose Tuttle, grade 10, Mount Ararat High School. Rose enjoys dance, theater, chorus, and cross country. Her favorite high school subjects include English and European history.
An Anthology of Rain by Phyllis Levin. For this, you may see no need. You may think my aim dead set on something devoid of conceivable value. An anthology of rain, a collection of voices, telling someone somewhere what it means to follow a drop, traveling to its final place of rest. But do consider this request. If you have pressed your nose of any shape against a window, odor of metal faint, persistent, while a storm casts its cloak over the shoulder of every cloud in sight, you are free to say whatever comes to mind when you look at the face of time. In the passing of one drop gathering speed, one drop chasing another, racing to reach a fork in the path, lingering until one makes a detour to another, fattening on the way, until entering a rivulet, running to the sill. So please accept this invitation. You are welcome to submit. There is no limit to its limit. Even the instructions are a breeze. As long as you include nothing about yourself except your name, your address remains unnecessary, for the rain will find you. If you receive it, it receives you. Whether or not you contribute, a volume is sent. And when you lift the collection, you may hear, by opening anywhere, a drop and its story reappear. As air turns to water, water to air.
Our next recitation is from Brett Palmer, grade 12, Gardiner Area High School. His favorite subjects include graphic design and computer science. He also has a black belt in karate and enjoys composing original music.
Oranges by Rosine Kelly. I'll choose for myself next time who I'll reach out and take as mine. In the way I might stand at a fruit stall, having decided to ignore the apples, the mangoes, and the kiwis, but hold my hands above a pile of oranges, as if to warm my skin before a fire. Not only have I chosen oranges, but I'll also choose which orange. I'll test a few for firmness, scrape some rind off with my fingernail so that a citrus scent will linger there all day. I won't be happy with the first one I pick, but we'll try different ones until I know you. How will I know you? You'll feel warm between my palms, and I'll cup you like a handful of holy water. A vision will come to me of your exotic land, the sun you swelled under, the tree you grew from. A drift of white blossoms from the orange tree will settle in my hair, and I'll know. This is how I will choose you, by feeling you, smelling you, by slipping you into my coat. Maybe then I'll climb the hill, look down on the town we live in, with sunlight on my face and a miniature sun burning a hole in my pocket. Thirsty, I'll suck the juice from it, from you. When I walk away, I'll leave behind a trail of lamp-bright rind.
Next up, we have Julia Ordway, grade 12, Gorham High School. Julia is passionate about singing, dancing, and acting, and she hopes to continue these activities in college and beyond.
Respectability by Tina Boyer Brown. We ask our children to act calm, nervous, whatever innocent looks like when some cop shows his badge, pulls his gun, slows his car. We beg kids to say soft, "Yes, sirs." We beg kids to get on the hood of that car, empty their pockets, shut up, put your hands behind your head. No is an existential threat. 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 Never 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 is an existential threat. We dare ask for humility in the face of this oppression? We have no idea what the threat feels like. But we know. Brianna, Rakia, Sandra, Nia, Betty, Yvette, Miriam, Charisse, Ahmad, Trevon, Eric, Laquan, Michael, Philando, Stefan, Alton, Amadou, Akai, Quintonio, Rumai, John, Jordan, Jonathan, Ronaldo, Kendrick, Romerly, Kenneth, Robert, Walter, Terrence, Freddie, Samuel, George, and Tamir, and more, and more, and more. There are no open risks declaring our innocence that will confer a peace where innocence needs. Our children stand in front of doors, pages, words on the street. They shut down, they shut down, they shut down the forces that burn against them.
Performing now, Colette Carrillo, grade 12, Waterville Senior High School. In addition to many other activities, Colette is a co-captain of her speech team. In college, she plans to major in English and minor in theater.
Do Not by Stevie Smith. Do not despair of man, and do not scold him. Who are you that you should so lightly hold him? Are you not also a man? And in your heart are there not warlike thoughts and fears and smart? Are you not also afraid and fear cruel? Do you not think of yourself as usual, faint by admission, desire to be loved, pricked at a virtuous thought by beauty moved? You love your wife, you hold your children dear, then say not that man is vile, but say they are. But they are not. So is your judgment shown presumptuous, fake, quite vain, merely your own sadness for failed ambitions set outside, made a philosophy of, prinked, beautified in noble dress, and into the world sent out to run with the ill it most pretends to rout. Oh, know your own heart. That heart's not wholly evil, and from the particular judge the general, if judge you must, but with compassion see life, or else, of yourself despairing, flee strife.
Our final recitation of this round comes from Sadie Lumen, grade 10, Medomic Valley High School. Sadie's favorite high school subjects include biology and English. She aspires to join the medical field someday, but her biggest goal in life is to travel and experience the different parts of the world.
Truth is, I would like to escape myself, by Noor al-Graoui. Truth is, I would like to escape myself. Detach my body from my skin, peel it layer by layer to uncover beneath the surface of petals and thorns, piled up year after year who I am and who I want to be. I want to be the flower that grows in dirt, the feather that flies free between the cracks of fences. A wise woman once told me, don't worry about you. Worry about who you could be. I want to be the woman who sits on a desk and writes pieces of oceans, rivers on a white space in a place where imagination has no border.
That concludes round 1 of our competition. Before we proceed to round 2, Meg will introduce a special guest.
Thank you, Allan. Before I introduce our guest, I want to take a moment to thank our judges for this year's state competitions. Our judges for state finals were Mihku Paul, Salim Salim, and Kate Fletcher. Our judges for our regional competitions were Kristen Lindquist, Julia Bouwsma, and Maya Stein. Our accuracy judge for both competitions was Todd McKinley. Thank you so much to our judges. They've devoted many hours of time to scoring and watching our recitation videos. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Julia Bouwsma, our Maine State Poet Laureate and also one of our judges for the regional competitions. In addition to being an award-winning poet and writer, Julia is a farmer and a small-town librarian. She's joining us from the mountains of Western Maine to share a recitation of her own.
To a Mainer living 100 years from now. The other day I stood beneath an ash tree as old as the time between my writing this letter and you reading it. Inside the green moment of the forest, I traced my finger across the ash's trunk, Grooved bark staggered like vertebrae. A deer bent back to listen, quiet flanks reddening the stillness before crouch became bolt and it leapt into a lattice of blackberry cane and brush. Tell me, unknown friend, what has dissipated from our home and what remains? Does it still snow hard enough to swallow your footsteps in light? Do you drink sap each spring, boil your sorrow into new waft and gold? We lived here at the edge of the old rituals, lived there until we could not discern our hope from our fear. Wildfire smoke smeared a low brow of bruise, a language written in billowing keloids and contrails, vanishing welts of vapor. Are you still repeating our same old violences, or have you learned new ones? Can you wring a chicken's neck with your hands, twist and pull the throat in unison as my grandmother's grandmother did and I do now? Or have you colonized Mars, erected skyscrapers of cosmic concrete? Scientists are at it now, discovering a building material of human tears, sweat, urine, blood. It hardens fast and cheap, stronger, they say, than anything we've ever known before. For you, I wish nothing but birdsong. I wish you a pond of peepers screaming spring thaw. And all those apple trees I planted, it's early autumn now, their striated skins spreading blush into white flesh as they ripen. Do they still stand on this hill? Pick one for me, please, if they do. Bite down among stippled wormholes and taste our blinding sweetness.
Thank you, Julia. Now let's continue with our second round of poetry recitations.
When I Have Fears That I May Cease to Be, by John Keats. When I have fears that I may cease to be, before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain, before high-piled books in charactery hold like rich garners the full ripened grain, when I behold upon the night's starred face huge cloudy symbols of a high romance, and think that I may never live to trace their shadows with the magic hand of chance. And when I feel, fair creature of an hour, that I may never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone, and think to love and fame to nothingness do sink.
Battle Hymn of the Republic by Julia Ward Howe. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fatal lightning of his terrible, swift sword. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dews and damps. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on. I have read a fiery gospel, rich and burnished rows of steel. As ye deal with my contemners, so with you my grace shall deal. Let the hero born of woman crush the serpent with his heel, since God is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift my soul to answer him. Be jubilant my feet. Our God is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ is born across the sea with a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. He has died to make men holy. Let us die to make men free, while God is marching on.
The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falcon. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loose upon the world. The blood-dim tide is loose, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely, some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs, while all about it the shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by rocking cradle, and what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born.
Sonnets from the Portuguese, 43. How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach, when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need, by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs, and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with the love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death.
The Light of Stars by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The night has come, but not too soon, and sinking silently, all silently, the little moon drops down behind the sky. There is no light in earth or heaven, but the cold light of stars, and the first watch of night is given to the red planet Mars. Is it the tender star of love, the star of love and dreams? Oh no, from that blue tent above, a hero's armor gleams. And earnest thoughts within me rise when I behold afar, suspended in the evening skies, the shield of that red star. O star of strength, I see thee stand and smile upon my pain. Thou beckonest with thy mailed hand, and I am strong again. Within my breast there is no light, but the cold light of stars. I give the first watch of the night to the red planet Mars. The star of the unconquered will, he rises in my breast, serene and resolute and still and calm and self-possessed. And thou, too, whosoever thou art, that readest this brief psalm, as one by one thy hopes depart, be resolute and calm. Oh, fear not in a world like this, and thou shalt know ere long, know how sublime a thing it is to suffer and be strong.
Self-Inquiry Before the Job Interview by Gary Soto. Did you sneeze? Yes. I rid myself of the imposter inside me. Did you iron your shirt? Yes. I used the steam of mother's hate. Did you wash your hands? Yes. I learned my hygiene from a raccoon. I prayed on my knees, and my knees answered with pain. I gargled. I polished my shoes until I saw who I was. I inflated my resume by employing my middle name. I walked to my interview early, the sun like a ring on an electric stove. I patted my hair through the wind of a revolving door. The guard said, "For a guy like you, it's the 19th floor." The economy was up. Flags whipped in every city plaza in America. I saw this for myself as I rode the elevator. Empty because everyone had a job but me. Did you clean your ears? Yes, I heard my fate in the drinking fountain's idiotic drivel. Did you slice a banana into your daily mush? Yes, I added a pinch of salt, 2 raisins to sweeten my breath. Did you remember your pen? I remembered my fingers when the elevator door opened. I shook my hands that dripped like a dirty sea. I found a chair and a desk. My name tag said my name. Through the glass ceiling, I saw the heavy rumps of CEOs. Outside my window, the sun was a burning stove. All of us pushing papers to keep it going.
The Caller by George Herbert. I struck the board and cried, "No more! I will abroad." What? Shall I ever sigh and pine? My lines in life are free, free as the road, loose as the wind, as large as store. Shall I be still in suit? Have I no harvest but a thorn to let me blood and not restore what I have lost with cordial fruit? Sure, there was wine before my sighs did dry it. There was corn before my tears did drown it. Is the year only lost to me? Have I no bays to crown it? No flowers? No garlands gay? All blasted? All wasted? Not so, my heart, but there is fruit, and thou hast hands. Recover all thy sigh-blown age on double pleasures. Leave thy cold dispute of what is fit and not. Forsake thy cage, thy rope of sands, which petty thoughts have made, and made to thee good cable, to enforce and draw, and be thy law, while thou didst wink and wouldst not see. Away! Take heed! I will abroad! Call in thy death's head there, tie up thy fears. He that forbears to suit and serve his need deserves his load. But as I raved and grew more fierce and wild at every word, methought I heard one calling, "Child?" And I replied, "My lord."
No, I Wasn't Meant to Love or Be Loved by Mirza Asadullah Khan Ghalib, translated by Vijay Sasadri. No, I wasn't meant to love or be loved. If I had lived longer, I would have waited longer. Knowing you are faithless keeps me alive and hungry. Knowing you faithful would kill me with joy. Delicate are you, and your vows are delicate too. So easily do they break. You are a laconic marksman that leaves me not dead, but perpetually dying. I want my friends to heal me, succor me. Instead, I get analysis. Conflagrations that would make stones drip blood are campfires compared to my anguish. Two-headed, inescapable anguish, love's anguish, or the anguish of time. Another dark, severing, incommunicable night. Death would be fine, if only I died once. I would have liked a solitary death, not this lavish funeral, this grave anyone can visit. You are mystical, Ghalib, and also you speak beautifully. Are you a saint, or just drunk as usual?
Where the Wild Things Go, D. Gilson. The night Max wore his wolf suit made him infamous, bred the child star never sent to bed. Middle school, Max started drinking. "Not in my house," his mother begged. "No, no, no, wild thing." Max reminded her who bought this condo, who paid for her meds. Freshman year, Max raved, roared his terrible roar, rolled, and almost wound up in a warehouse dead. Where, oh where do the wild things go? To rehab in high school. To college on residual book sales. Max kept his head down, laughed at drunken frat boys. "Bro, let the wild rumpus start!" Max said no thanks and volunteered for the Peace Corps instead. 2 years in Kenya, 1 in Belarus. The president thought Max might be of some use. Max moved to Washington, appointed at the State Department a cultural attaché. One important day, Max wore his wolf gray suit, then drove home well past rush hour in a freak snowstorm. Max drove on the deserted beltway, thought it his throne. "Yes," Max belted, "this is where the wild things roam."
Serenade by Mary Weston Fordham. Sleep, love, sleep. The night winds sigh in soft lullaby. The lark is at rest with the dew on her breast. So close those dear eyes that borrowed their hue from the heavens so blue. Sleep, love, sleep. Sleep, love, sleep. The pale moon looks down on the valleys around. The glow moth is flying, the south wind is sighing, and I am low-lying, with lute deftly strung to pour out my song. Sleep, love, sleep.
That was wonderful. Before we proceed to a third and final round, I would love to recite a stanza of a meaningful poem by Jimmy Santiago Baca. I am offering you this poem since I have nothing else to give. Keep it like a warm coat when winter comes to cover you, or like a pair of thick socks the cold cannot bite through. I love you. And now we're on to round 3.
Constancy to an Ideal Object by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Since all that beat about in nature's range, or veer, or vanish, why shouldest thou remain the only constant in a world of change, O yearning thought that lives but in the brain? Call to the hours that in the distance play the fairy people of the future day. Fond thought, not one of all that shining swarm will breathe upon thee with life enkindling breath, till when, like strangers sheltering from a storm, hope and despair meet in the porch of death. Yet still thou haunt'st me, and though well I see she is not thou, and only thou are she, still, as though some dear embodied good, some living love before my eyes there stood, with answering look, a ready ear to lend, I mourn to thee and say, ah, loveliest friend, that this, the meed of all my toils, might be to have a home, an English home, and thee. Vain repetition, home and thou are one. The peacefulest cot the moon shall shine upon, lulled by the thrush and wakened by the lark. Without thee were a becalmed bark, whose helmsman on an ocean waste and wide sits, mute and pale, his mouldering helm beside. And art thou nothing? Such thou art as when the woodsman winding westward up the glen, at wintry dawn where o'er the sheep tracks maze a viewless snow mist weaves a glistening haze, sees, full before him, gliding without tread, an image with a glory round its head. The enamored rustic worships its fair hues, nor knows he makes a shadow he pursues.
Enough by Suzanne Boffin. I am wearing dark glasses inside the house to match my dark mood. I have left all the sugar out of the pie. My rage is a kind of domestic rage. I learned it from my mother, who learned it from her mother before her, and so on. Surely the Greeks had a word for this. Now, surely the Germans do. The more words a person knows to describe her private sufferings, the more distantly she can perceive them. I repeat the names of all the cities I've known and watch an ant drag its crooked shadow home. What does it mean to love the life we've been given? To act well the part that's been cast for us? Wind, light, fire, time. A train whistles through the far hills. One day, I plan to be riding it.
Sonnets from the Portuguese, 43. How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Ways, by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feeling out of sight for the ends of being and ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use with my old griefs and with my childhood's fate. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death.
We lived happily during the war by Ilya Kaminsky. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling. Invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous reign, in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, we, forgive us, lived happily during the war.
I Knew a Woman by Theodore Ratsky. I knew a woman, lovely in her bones. When small birds sighed, she would sigh back at them. When she moved more ways than one. The shapes a bright container can contain. Of her choice virtues, only gods should speak, or English poets who grew up on Greek. I'd have them sing in chorus, cheek to cheek. How well her wishes went. She stroked my chin. She taught me turn and counter-turn and stand. She taught me touch, that undulant white skin. I nibbled meekly from her proffered hand. She was the sickle, I poor, I the rake, coming behind her for her pretty sake. But what prodigious mowing we did make. Love likes a gander and adores a goose. Her full lips pursed, the errant notes to seize, she pleaded quick, she pleaded light and loose. My eyes, they dazzled at her flowing knees. Her several parts could keep pure repose, or one hip quiver with a mobile nose. She moved in circles, and those circles moved. Let seed be grass, and grass turn into hay. I'm martyr to emotion not my own. What's freedom for? To know eternity. I swear she cast a shadow white as stone. But who would count eternity in days? These old bones live to learn her wanton ways. I measure time by how a body sways.
Envy by Mary Lamb. This rose tree is not made to bear the violet blue, nor lily fair, nor the sweet mignonette. And if this tree were discontent, or wished to change its natural bent, it all, in vain, would fret. And should it fret, you would suppose it ne'er had seen its own red rose, nor, after gentle shower, had ever smelled its rose's scent. Or it could ne'er be discontent with its own pretty flower. Like such a blind and senseless tree, as I've imagined this to be, all envious persons are, with care and culture, may find some pretty flower in their own mind, some talent that is rare.
Summer by Chen Chen. You are the ice cream sandwich connoisseur of your generation. Blessed are your floral shorteralls, your deeply pink fanny pack with travel-size lint roller, just in case. Level of splendiferous in your outfit? 200! Types of invisible pain stemming from adolescent disasters in classrooms, locker rooms, and quite often Toyota Camrys? At least 10,000. You are not a Jigglypuff, not yet a Wigglytuff. Reporters and fathers call your generation the worst, which really means queer kids who could go online and learn that queer doesn't have to mean disaster or dead. Instead, queer means, splendiferously, you. And you means someone who knows that common flavors for ice cream sandwiches in Singapore include red bean, yam, and honeydew. Your powers are great, are growing. One day, you will create an online personality quiz that also freshens the breath. The next day, you will tell your father. You were wrong to say that I had to change. To make me promise I would. To make me promise and promise.
Son/Daughter by Kai Conradi. In a dream, my dad fell from the top of a steep white mountain down into a blue crevice, like the space between two waves where the light shines through just enough to tell you, You will miss this life dearly. The falling took years. I could hear him moving through air, and then finally, nothing. In another dream, my dad was an angel, his see-through body dangling in the air, floating above me, face shimmery like tinfoil. And I cried and cried when he told me, I can't come back to Earth now. Not ever. When my dad told me, you will always be my daughter. Maybe it was like that. Will I be allowed to come back to Earth and be your son?
The Fair Singer by Andrew Marvell. To make a final conquest of all me, love did compose so sweet an enemy, in whom both beauties to my death agree, joining together in fatal harmony, that while she with her eyes my heart does bind, she with her voice might captivate my mind. I could have fled from one but singly fair, my disentangled soul itself might save, breaking the curled trammels of her hair. But how should I avoid to be her slave, whose subtle art invisibly can wreathe my fetters of the very air I breathe? It had been easy, fighting in some plain, where victory might hang in equal choice. But all resistance against her is vain. Who has that vantage both of eyes and voice? And all my forces needs must be undone, she having gained both the wind and sun.
That Everything's Inevitable by Katie Lederer. That everything's inevitable. That fate is whatever has already happened, the brain, which is an elemental, as sane as the rest of the processing universe is, in this world, I am the surest thing. Scrunched up arms, folded legs, lovely, destitute eyes, please insert your spare coins. I am filling them up. Please insert your spare vision, your vigor, your vim, but yet I am the Vatic one. As Vatic as the Vatican in the temper and the tantrum, in the well-kept arboretum, I am waiting like an animal for poetry.
Thank you all. This has certainly been an exciting competition. And now for the announcement of the winners.
Thank you, Allan. I'm so honored to have the opportunity to announce this year's Maine Poetry Out Loud State Finals winners. First of all, congratulations to our state runner-up, Colette Carrillo. And a very special congratulations to our 2022 Maine Poetry Out Loud State Champion, Sofya Lantratova. Sofya will compete in this year's virtual National Poetry Out Loud competition, where a total of $50,000 in cash prizes and school stipends will be awarded. Congratulations, Sofya and Colette.
Well, here we are at the end of our state finals competition. Congratulations to you all, and thank you to everyone who supported these students through another unique year of Poetry Out Loud. I can't wait to see you all again in 2023, where hopefully we'll be able to gather in person and celebrate the art of poetry together.